Hey, this video is called Nutrition Club Talk. I was going to give a lecture to a nutrition club that had invited me, and I was happy to do it. But when I went there, they were using Zoom, and the Zoom would not let us have a meeting. They were not allowed to talk to me. I was not allowed to talk to them. The thing was totally censored. There was no toolbar to fix it. They couldn't fix it. I had no options to fix it. I went into the options in the settings. There's nothing I could do. So Zoom was not friendly. They got this new AI companion, like it's really supposed to help you. It's just helping to censor us and not let us speak. So just had to cancel the meeting. Okay, and I'm going to show you this StreamYard. If you do this, these interview software, StreamYard works a lot better. Okay, it's more controlling BS, you know. So anyways, I'll just show you. I'm just going to give this talk to them so they can watch it if they want to. Here it is. Okay, I started out from my book, The Hidden History of Nutrition, Health, and Science. The reason I wrote the book is because all of the nutrition pioneers are censored from the conventional textbooks. Conventional medicine is about selling drugs, okay, for the chronic patients is the main thing it does. And it doesn't want any of the pioneers of nutrition to be made known to the healthcare providers. Okay, so I wrote a book about it. And I took this painting called The Wounded Angel, put it on the cover, and here's the painting. Basically, this angel's wounded. She's got blood on her wing, bandage on her head, and she ain't doing so well. The little boy in front, he's given up on her. He's dressed in black, a mourner, like he's taking her to her funeral. This boy has not given up on her, and the angel in this context represents the truth about health and nutrition, which, you know, I'm trying to keep alive. He's looking out to the audience, will you help? You know, the way you help is you teach other people about it, and it becomes known, and it'll continue to live on, the truth. Okay, the grandfather of nutrition therapy is Dr. Walter Kempner, and he showed in the 1940s, 50s, 60s, and 70s that you could cure or at least dramatically improve the outcomes for most of the chronic Western diseases. Just putting people on white rice, fruits, and a multivitamin, he was curing diabetes, hypertension, obesity, coronary artery disease, psoriasis, congestive heart failure, diabetic retinopathy, hypertensive retinopathy. This is a biography about him by Barbara Newborg, a younger lady doctor who worked with him. It's very good. Here's his scientific publications in English. Only volume 2 is relevant. Volume 1's in German. You get this at drmcdougall.com's website for free. Okay, here's what Kempner did. He had public weigh-ins, and then people would come to his place in Durham, North Carolina. They'd write their blood pressures on the wall, feed them white rice and fruits and a multivitamin. And people who lost over 100 pounds get into the Centenarian Club, and you know, he had dramatically fantastic results, better results by far than anyone else in the world, curing things like diabetic retinopathy, hypertensive retinopathy. And it was amazing that this could be done. No one even believed it could be done, but he proved it could be done over and over. He cured about 20,000 patients. Okay, here is Dennis Burkitt, the Fiber Man. Good biography of him by Ethel Nelson, a lady doctor. He was an Irish Christian missionary physician to Africa, and he showed that, you know, the ones eating the fiber attracted water to the stool, made the stool more bulky like a cow patty when they defecate, and they were healthy, okay? Basically, by adding water to the stool's bulky. When the person has the right time and place for defecation, the outer sphincter of the rectum relaxes, and then the rectal muscles initiate a reflex contraction that effortlessly expels the stool. On the other hand, if you eat a westernized diet that's low in fiber from processed food and meats and oils and stuff, the lack of fiber means that the stool becomes very dried out. And because of that, the stool in the rectum is like a goat pellet, and or a real hard Tootsie Roll. And it doesn't stretch the rectal wall, so in order to defecate, they have to contract their abdominal muscles, called the Valsalva maneuver, to increase, and that increases abdominal pressure. The back pressure upward into the chest pushes the stomach in the chest. It's called hiatal hernia, causes gastroesophageal reflux disease, inflammation, heartburn, potentially esophageal cancer eventually. The sigmoid colon gets bulges in it called diverticulosis, can pop, diverticulitis, inflammation of the stool, potential abscess, potential need to go to the operating room. Appendicitis is due to a little rock of stool blocking the appendix connection from the appendix to the cecum of the colon. The mucus secreting glands continue to secrete, and it can pop. That's appendicitis. You get hernias down into the groin, inguinal hernia around the umbilicus, periumbilical hernia, back pressure on the veins of the rectum, hemorrhoids, veins of the legs, varicose veins, veins of the scrotum, varicocele, can cause infertility. Here's Nathan Pritikin books. They're excellent, very logical. He's an excellent writer. He reviewed all the literature. He was a genius, and he had a lot of time on his hands because he was rich. So he went through all the literature, and he said, fat is bad. It's impossible to be too low in protein. It's impossible to be too low in fats, including for omega-6 and omega-3. Okay, the Pima and the Tarahumara were combined populations. And then in the Mexican-American War, 1848, the Pima got pulled into what is now Arizona, and they ate the SAD diet, standard American diet. They're fat and sick. Tarahumara kept their old ways, eating lots of corn and beans and local greens, for example. They're in the Sierra Madre Mountains, Copper Canyon area. Sierra means like a saw, up and down edges of the mountains. They can run 100 miles in, one day. And the Pima used to be just as fit as them, but once they westernized their diet, they're all fat and sick now. Here's what they look like. Okay, Tarahumara are ultra-marathon runners. Like I said, run over 100 miles in a day. Here's the Pima. They're all fat and sick overall. Here's what the Tarahumara look like in real life. Every regular guy can run, 100 miles. It's not like it's just one fast guy. A lot of people have gone out and visited them, including Scott Urich, Ruth Heidrich, and other runners and people in that business, and they're for real. Bill O'Connor wrote one of the definitive papers about them, studying their health, no hypertension, obesity, diabetes, that kind of stuff. Their total cholesterol, I forget the exact number, is around 140. Nurses in South Africa, Bantu, they have about 9-10 kids, nurse them 3 years. They don't take any calcium supplements. They don't get osteoporosis because they don't eat much animal protein. It's the little old ladies who drink milk. They're the ones that get osteoporosis. Here's Dr. McDougall. His best book is Starch Solution. Digestive Tune-Up was also very good. And, he, of course, has got great lectures. He would be the father of nutritional therapy. He basically took what Kempner got done with a difficult diet, and he made it applicable to everybody very easily with a starch-based diet. McDougall says eat 90% of your calories from starch, 5% from fruits, 5% from veggies. And people say, well, why do you recommend that? And he says, because all the healthy populations do it since the beginning of recorded time. And it's true, and he gets great results by treating people with that diet. Okay, here's the concept of caloric density. Basically, oils are the most caloric thing. Liquid fat, 9 calories per gram. Nuts and seeds are almost as bad, 6 calories per gram. Meat and cheese are lower at about 4 because they got a lot of fat in them. Whole grains, starches, they're about only 1 calorie per gram. People say, oh, aren't they carbohydrates? Shouldn't they be 4 calories per gram? No, because they're primarily fiber with a polymer glucose wrapped inside. And this is most of your starches and your fruits. Veggies are over here, and they're just too low in caloric density, 0.1 calorie per gram, so that you can't satisfy your hunger with them. You can get nutrients from them, but that's about it. Not the macronutrient energy. Okay, here's what starch does. It's low in caloric density, so the fiber stretches the stomach, early satisfaction and hunger from that. And then the glucose is separated from the fiber, slowly absorbed, so you get the equivalent of a slow-release energy pill. Here's the blood glucose curve from starch. If you eat simple sugars, you spike too rapidly, and then pancreas overcompensates, drives them down. You can get rebound hypoglycemia. Okay. Here's a little more detail on the curve. There's our simple sugars, rebound hypoglycemia. Here is eating fat first, causing insulin resistance, then subsequent carbohydrates that follow lead to prolonged high blood glucose because of the insulin resistance from the fats. Here's just a starch, a little bit of a bump up, and then comes back down pretty fast. That's normal. Conventional medicine basically wants to get everybody like the cow, trapped into taking a conventional medicine every day. And then you got to get milked by the system like a cow every day. The Mediterranean diet is the Antichrist diet because it promises salvation but doesn't deliver. It's the low-fat vegan diet that delivers. Dr. Sloop figured out the atherothrombosis theory that atherosclerosis is a blood clot. Anything that causes blood clotting is atherogenic. Blood Pressure Solution by Richard Moore, his career devoted to ion pumps, and he found that eating what's in plants, potassium and magnesium, opens up arteries, vasodilates, versus eating sodium, vasoconstricts. In general, you want 5 times more potassium than sodium, which is easy to get. Like I said, fruits are about 100 and up on their K factor. Starches, let's say 15 to 100. Veggies are about 5 to 15 on their K factor. So you get plenty of K factor if you're eating plant foods. Our ancestors probably had K factors around 20, but if you at least keep it over 5, you'll probably be okay. Caldwell Esselstyn showed low-fat vegan diet is the best thing for atherosclerosis. Then I wrote The Medical Reformation. I was just basically trying to explain the mechanisms from mouth to mitochondria, what causes disease, what makes health, and it's pretty obvious that we're designed to be outdoors looking for plant foods all day. And the reason I thought it was funny was Martin Luther had said, without scripture, he said the most common peasant knows more about religion than the Pope without scripture. So he said the most common peasant with scripture knows more about religion than the Pope without it. And so what I'm sort of saying is if you want to help patients, if you know the low-fat vegan diet, a health coach can cure a lot more patients than an MD because they know the vegan diet. Low-fat vegan diet, it's where it's at. I mean, I wasn't expecting this. I always thought vegans were these weirdo, pot-smoking, hippie, loafer, Grateful Dead t-shirt wearing wimpy scumbags. And no, it's just the secret of health. Dietary fiber comes in, smiley face, good bacteria, take it, make it into 4-chain butyrate, short-chain fatty acid that's taken up by the gut lining cells. They make tight junctions, so it prevents leaky gut. Lack of dietary fiber or any of these toxic chemicals here will lead to leaky gut. And you'll have the big gaps here, and then bacterial endotoxin can get into the blood and cause problems. This is just showing amyloid clotting either from leaky gut with LPS and LTA, distorting the shape of fibrinogen from secondary protein structure of alpha helix like a cylinder to flat like beta pleated sheet. And it can stack up then like a stack of coins, and that'll precipitate in aqueous solution, which is plasma. So you get blood clotting, 2 to 200 microns in size, these clots. They plug up arteries in the brain, causing cognitive decline in the heart, causing atrial fibrillation, etc. Okay, I figured out that there's about 120 or more mitochondria inhibitors. They're real common. Many of them are real common. Atrazine, Tylenol, Trazodone, Metformin, Prozac. And this is just my supply and demand theory of dementia. Basically, Jack Del Torre figured out the hypoperfusion component. If you don't get enough blood flow to the brain, the cells can't extract. There's no oxygen or glucose for them to extract. So you got to get blood flow to the brain. But even then, you don't want to overstimulate the brain with things like amphetamines, caffeine, and sleep deprivation, excess stress, because that will get more calcium in the cytoplasm. And you want to avoid mitochondria inhibitors because the cell makes ATP to pump out the calcium. And if you can't make enough ATP because your mitochondria are not working because they're inhibited, you're going to have a hard time. Your brain cells are going to start dying, and then the brain's going to atrophy. That's what I see every day. That's the Peter Rogers, MD, supply and demand theory of cognitive decline. Okay, here's the spine, and I figured out the ischemic and biochemical theory of spinal degeneration, how this process progresses from the sacrum on up to the skull. So if you're interested in back pain, I made more videos about that. Probably the best ones over at Veg Source. And again, what's the secret of health? Be pretty much like Adam and Eve, but keep your indoor heating and plumbing. Walk around outdoors, get sunshine. Sunshine does lots of good stuff for you. Help each other, and find some food. And it's going to be plant foods because, they don't got much for teeth or claws. And right now we find ourselves in what I would call a vegan civil war. All these cures and dramatic improvements came from the low-fat vegan diet, so I call myself a low-fat fanatic. And, the high-fat diet, the way they're talking about it, the high-fat phonies with regard to their version of the vegan diet, it's like the Mediterranean diet. They're allowing all kinds of oils and other stuff. Anyways, this was, I thought, a little bit crazy. The Irish were fighting each other in the American Civil War in the 1860s. So anyways, that's it for the video. I hope you found that helpful.